Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the BNI Partners in Excellence show. I'm Andy, and today I have with me Jason Turner, who's been a longtime friend of mine, longtime BNI Partners in Excellence member, and he owns and operates J. Turner Law. Jason, welcome to the show.
Yes, great to see you, Andy. Great to see you. Thank you for inviting me.
I am so glad that you came over today. Jason made the trek of a lifetime, you guys, across the parking lot to come here to the studio today.
We are neighbors.
We've been neighbors for since what, 2007, I think, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, kind of in the same neighborhood.
Same office complex. So close that if I laugh out loud, you can almost hear me from my office, and vice versa.
The other day, Ray Batara was pulling up, and I was like, and right behind him, kind of coming this direction in the parking lot. You were zooming in. You were on a mission, and
probably late
you
for
weren't.
an appointment.
No, you weren't like racing dangerously. I was like, Ray, look. He goes, was that Jason? I'm like, yeah, that was Jason. He's just right next door. So, I had told the story. Who was I tell the story to? Was it Miguel? Miguel and I were talking about the inception of BNI Partners in Excellence. And one of the things that I was sharing with him is that when we moved to this business complex, before I even knew what BNI was, I started like walking around and meeting people and getting business cards. And that's how I met you. And I remember coming into your office, and it was over on the other side of the complex, right, on the other corner. I think it was called the qualifying office at one point, right?
On Anchorage.
On Anchorage. And I remember walking over there, and I was putting business cards in a business card like holder of the people around here, so that as a mortgage professional, I could call on people if I needed help with something or to refer a client. And I remember that's my recollection how I met you all those years ago now. 2007, at least by my recollection.
And you were the one who invited me to BNI.
That's right. And I don't remember, forgive me, I don't remember what year that was. Was that in 2009 or 11? I joined in 9.
Right. I think it was around 2009, 2010. I opened my office there in 2008.
Yeah.
And then I remember you invited me to like a visitor's day. I think I ignored the first invitation. But you wisely persevered, and then I went to a visitor's day, and then started attending the regular meetings. And it took me like 2 months because I'm a slow decider.
No, you're making a qualified choice, is what you're doing.
Yeah, I joined BNI in 2012.
Well, I am so excited to have you here today to just kind of have this conversation and explore some other things about Jason Turner that maybe we don't talk about in enough context. So I'm really excited for that. But first, before we get into some of those things, let's just kind of talk about, what it is you're doing now for people that are watching this channel already, or they're going to be sent this show. What kind of referrals are you looking for? Who are you helping in the marketplace? Kind of what is the sweet spot for business referrals when it comes to you?
Okay. So my profession is as a bankruptcy attorney. It's most of what my practice is. I've been in practice for 32 years, doing bankruptcy work for about 18 or 19 of those years. And in the bankruptcy realm, I work mostly on the debtor side. So that's the people who owe the money to the banks, to credit card companies, whoever. And there are two categories of really great referrals for me. One is the individual who has consumer debt. They may have a lot of credit card debt. They may be behind on their mortgage. They're facing a possible foreclosure. And I work with them on eliminating debt or restructuring it. The other, which has really sort of, it's grown steadily really since the pandemic. Individual bankruptcies haven't grown a lot since the pandemic because the economy has been still pretty good. And even during the pandemic, there was a lot of federal money that was assisting people, and so they could pay their bills. That may change in the next. It has changed. Federal money, of course, is no longer there, but the economy has been fairly strong. So individual bankruptcies not risen much. Business bankruptcies, however, have grown in the last 3 or 4 years for me in my practice. And what I do is it's small businesses primarily. Maybe they own one restaurant, or maybe they own one fitness gym, or one brick and mortar type of thing, or maybe it's an online business, or it was a travel agent business. And those businesses they've been, for whatever reason, they're struggling. They're falling behind on bills, whether it's payroll taxes, lease, etc. And if it's a business that's got a viable potential money-making business, but is just behind on the debts, we restructure the debts. If it's a business where we just have to close it down, and I've got a lot now, or an increasing number of small business owners. They have a corporation. It's got like one of these SBA loans from the pandemic, EIDL loan and others, but they have to close it down, and they've also got personal liability for those loans. So we're looking at how to close down the company properly and how to protect the individual owner.
Now, this is a perfect segue for a little personal caveat story from old Uncle Andy in the corner. There was a time when the business that I was in BNI with, 9010 brand, this is part of my story, is when I was hospitalized and I ended up having to close my business, you were there for me. And I was telling this on another one of the shows, you were there for me to help get through all the debt that the company owned and that I had personally guaranteed. And you were a tremendous help to me. So I wanted to thank you for that in a public format too. I know you're not going to sit here and talk about your clients, but I have done this, and I've done this because of the situation that I was in, my health, and having lost everything, but having debts that were due, and you were brought tremendous peace of mind for myself and for my family. So thank you, Jason. And then pursuant to that, you helped me with the bankruptcy process and restarting. And I wanted to tell you this today, and I've said this also on another episode where, I credit a number of people in BNI for helping me get back on my feet and have a business again and do all this, have the videography business. I'm comfortable in business. I know business. I like business. I can start a business, but being able to get to a place where you've like burned something down that just, it didn't work out and the cards weren't in your favor and it just didn't happen. And I didn't expect to get hospitalized for 2 weeks and have to be on, recovery for 3 months and learn how to walk again, all this crazy stuff. And, I lost everything except for my relationships. And, you were there for me, and I appreciate that. I know that I'm a client. You're like, okay, yeah, you pay me to do the work, Andy, but like you were there for me personally, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. And part of it is what I do. Part of it is you were and are a good friend of mine, but also and this is what, when people say, oh, what's your why? Why are you do what you do? It's not just the legal part of, I'm hired, I complete a case properly, meet all of the legal requirements for the case. But in bankruptcy, when I'm representing somebody and for whatever reason they have a lot of debt, it's very discouraging, very bleak, and often they don't know, how am I going to get out of this?
Yeah, I didn't know what my options were. I felt terrible about what would happen, even though it happened to me.
Or whether it would ever end.
Yeah.
And using the bankruptcy process, we can get a fresh start for my clients, and that usually restores hope.
Yeah.
And hope is like the energy by which we do all the great things in our lives, whether it's with our family, starting a new business, some creative project, whatever it is, we've got to have hope.
Yeah.
And the bankruptcy process, the way I use it, is to restore hope. That's my.
I'm
why.
so grateful for that, because your attitude, you could just check the boxes and like go through the task list, but like your perspective and you sharing that with me in the middle of a time where I felt terrible was extremely helpful for me. And then that hope on the other end that you're talking about is matched, your efforts. Eddie was a part of this too. I had to close my corporation, and a lot of members were around me privately, checking in on me, hanging out with me, talking to me. And then Miguel gave me a hand up, and Miguel had me come and help him at his office, kind of as a consultant for a while, doing a couple of random video projects here and there, with a fun little video series we used to do, but also some things administratively at his office just to get me going in the right direction again. And that was kind of like that wind of the sails I needed after like my previous ship had burned down, and or I had to burn it down, and then go captain a new ship again. And you guys were all instrumental in that. So I wanted to make sure I publicly thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm so glad it's worked out, and with your fresh start, you've started something really great.
Yeah, this has been so fun, and I just love it. And one of the things that's been really unique to me, or unique that I didn't think I would be so gratified by, but I've become gratified by, is everyone being able to kind of catalog part of their story and kind of enshrine some of themselves in this process. Having your voice heard and having you filmed and letting this kind of live on like in a legacy way, not like we're giving everyone's eulogy here, like not for that, but it's like there's a piece of us that can carry on beyond me shutting the cameras off and processing this and putting it on the internet. Like this will live on. And so these moments and these conversations have been very useful and very heartwarming for me, because some really neat things have come out of these conversations where we get to have these kind of interactions and share our gratitudes with one another, but also just be enlightened and entertained by each other too.
That's a good sort of advertisement or tease. I'm going to go later today and tomorrow and watch these.
Well,
to these podcasts.
I hope that you're entertained by some of the other stories, man. There's just been so many fun and funny things that have come up. So, so I want to keep going down our course of conversation here, because, you mentioned hope a second ago and how, that really is a driving force for a lot of the good things that we do. I want to go back in your story, in your history. What brought you to law school? What brought you to being interested in law? You mentioned bankruptcy has not been the entirety of your career of the 31 years now. It's been 18 about. So what were you doing before law school? What led you to law school? What did you first start practicing? And then what turned you into doing bankruptcy law?
Well, I'm not one of those people who right from an early age knew, I'm going to be a lawyer. Some people from the time they're 5 or 6 years old know what they're going to do. And that was not me. I was in college and I was majoring in history, and I loved history, but there were only two things I could see that I could do with my history degree. One was teach. I didn't want to teach. The other was possibly become a lawyer. So I thought, okay, well, let me explore that. And at the same time, I love literature. I read, lots of books. And there were a couple of books that really sort of, they didn't inspire me to be a lawyer, but they showed a light on, I could do that. I could be successful. One was To Kill a Mockingbird. And, the character of Atticus Finch, who not only is he a really good lawyer, he's fighting against injustice in the South and, the Jim Crow era. But it's sort of his quiet, somewhat cynical way. By cynical, I mean he's always like doubting people and questioning, and that really helps him to ask the questions that nobody else in the community or the court are asking in that case. And when I was reading, I was like, I could do that. I mean, I could do the good part, hopefully not be too cynical. And then there was another book, Tale of Two Cities, classic by Charles Dickens. One of the main characters
the best of times, it was the worst. That's like the only line I know from the word, the first sentence of the book.
And that's a ringer of it. It's one of the great lines in literature.
What a great opener, huh?
And Sidney Carton is one of the main characters. In that opening chapter, he's a lawyer in London, and this is in the time of the French Revolution. He's doing good work, but then he's he's a little cynical. He's not this really inspiring character, but he's doing work, and I feel like, okay, I could be effective. I'm not, a big friend, outgoing kind of person. But then he does noble things. Yeah. And in each of these books, they do things that only lawyers can do. And, he ultimately makes us, sacrifices his life for the other character who looks like him. And that necessarily wasn't what I saw as a lawyer does, but the other things that he did, or even Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird did, were good things that only lawyers can do. And because of the position we have, because of our training, et cetera. And so that sort of got me thinking of not, I want to be a lawyer necessarily, but okay, that's a possibility. And it just kept working out, and then I got into law school. I was going to college in Michigan, finished there. Originally from California, Northern California, so I went to law school in Northern California at UC Law in San Francisco. And it was my chance also to get back to California. Yeah. And never looked back, never moved back to the Midwest. I'm California through and through. And so my wife and I, around that time, we got married, and we established ourselves in the Bay Area. We were there for about 14 years.
Wait, hold on. I don't want to skip over this part because your wife is actually not from the Bay Area, right? She has family in Canada, right?
She's
Is that
Canadian.
correct? She's Canadian. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So we met in college.
Okay.
In back east in Michigan. And then we both moved to California when I started law school, and she was in college. And then as we progressed, and then she did her PhD later in the Bay Area. And we lived there from about 1989 to 2003. And then we moved down to San Diego in 2003 when I got a job with the Legal Aid Society of San Diego. Mm-hmm. And I got that job because I had been in private practice in the 90s, working first for the federal government and then for a small firm in the Bay Area doing a lot of real estate work, litigation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I got my feet wet with bankruptcy, because I'd have a case or business litigation where we sued somebody, we got a judgment, or we were close to getting a judgment against the defendant, and the defendant files for bankruptcy. And then my clients were asking, okay, what do I do?
Now what? Yeah, now what?
Will I get any money out of this case? And so I had to figure out from the creditor's perspective how to sort of navigate our way to try to get as much as we could out of the bankruptcy.
Wow.
That was my first introduction to bankruptcy. And we could go into a lot of reasons of why I like bankruptcy just as a practice area of law, even more than just on the professional side, more than in addition to restoring hope to people.
Yeah.
Bankruptcy law is like the coolest area of law in the world, in my opinion.
It's interesting to me because, Ray Estolano started on the other side too of the court. Mm-hmm. He was on the prosecution side. Now he's on kind of the defense side.
Criminal defense.
And I know he, predominantly, he does family law, but there's criminal defense, right? Mm-hmm. And then so you were on the other side of the cases, and now you're on the bankruptcy side of the cases. Yep. Is that just a common thing, or am I just around you guys that's just common for you guys?
I think, I'm not 100% sure, but a lot of former prosecutors, when they go into private practice, well, you can't be a private prosecutor.
Yeah.
But they still work in criminal law, so it's criminal defense.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it's useful to know how the other side thinks. And for me, for bankruptcy attorneys, there's some who have gone back and forth. Most who are on the creditor's side, they stay there because they're working for big, steady companies.
They always have a case open, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you knew this or not, but when I recently had talked with Mark Garza, who's retired police officer of 25 years, he was talking now in private investigation, he was talking that now he actually devotes some of his time to the Innocence Center. So again, at the other side of the coin, having had a career like fighting crime, if you will, and arresting people, and then now on this side, helping people basically who were, let's say, falsely imprisoned, reclaim their innocence through this Innocence Center, and that was fascinating to me. Yeah. Again, another I did this over here, and now I'm doing this over here thing, and I'm just starting to see more of that. So
yeah, and if you're flexible enough in your profession that you're willing to try new things within your profession, I mean, there can be some fantastic opportunities, and there were for me. And with the Legal Aid Society, I helped start a bankruptcy program there and a tax clinic and some other things. And then that really got me into on the debtor side. Mm-hmm. It's individuals, low income, but a lot of them had a lot of debt. Mm-hmm. And helping them it didn't solve their financial problems in terms of they still needed more income. They were still poor. But on the debt side, they didn't have all these creditors hounding them anymore, or suddenly levying their bank account and taking their rent money out of their bank. Mm-hmm. So I worked at the Legal Aid Society for 5 years, and then early 2008 went back into private practice because I wanted to make more money.
Yeah,
and that's where I ended up here in this area in Eastlake.
That's so crazy. That's awesome. Yeah. So I don't know if you knew this or not. I actually have an intersection with the Legal Aid Society too. Did I ever tell you this?
No.
So back in 2000, after the housing collapse of 2008 and 9, everything in the ashes as they were, and I used to participate in something called the Free Housing Clinic, where people could bring their housing documents to professionals who were in the industry without their company name, but just their name and their profession, like Andy Cruz, mortgage lender, and they could ask questions and they could get their documents looked at. And then what ended up happening was we ended up seeing cases of fraud, like come from people who are just trying to come get some free help, and we can explain how the documents look and this and that. And because of that, the Legal Aid Society ended up getting involved because it actually generated cases where there had to be some sort of resolution to the crime that was taking place. And then it became even bigger than that because it wasn't just like, oh, Chula Vista or San Diego. It ended up being federal stuff because wires were coming to fund escrow purchases or refinances, cash out from across state lines. So then the feds got involved. It was crazy. So anyways, I think it was 2011 or 12. One of those years, the Legal Aid Society recognized our group for, for our work in San Diego, helping people uncover and then take corrective action on the ways they'd been frauded in real estate and mortgage. Yeah, I don't know that I ever told you that.
No,
that's
great.
There was one day. I don't think I've publicly told this story. So here we go. Here's the first. There was one day myself and a couple other people were invited to the local FBI field office because we had to come and bring evidence of what we see happening in and around town from these clinics. And so I remember being at this like horseshoe-shaped table, and I was like, I'm the only one in this room without a firearm on my hip. And there was all these local agencies. It was the Department of Real Estate. It was the police office, San Diego Police, Sheriff, FBI. There was, I don't know if it was IRS. There was some other agency there. And I was like, okay, these are all like these department heads of things that they're going to have to go and carry out all this correction if they're, if they're going
investigation and
oh yeah,
prosecution,
I was like,
enforcement.
I remember being like, okay, we have all the information. I was like, oh man, I'm kind of intimidated. But they were just like, we just need answers. Like, how does this happen? How does this work? And what does this mean? And, do you see this a lot? And it started kind of showing this pattern recognition of things that had been happening over and again. And it ended up uncovering a mountain of fraud, everything from signature fraud, document fraud, wire fraud. Yeah. I mean, falsifications of everything imaginable. So anyway,
that's tremendous.
Legal Aid Society crossed through my life at that point in time.
Cool.
So I know that you have a lot of hobbies and interests. I mean, well beyond your career in law and 31 years. That's quite the career. You have an adult. You have an adult child who's your law career. Your law career is 31. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And it's longer than my children were born. I have two kids, and they were born after.
Right.
They're younger than my career.
When my wife and I had our 21st anniversary, like our marriage is old enough to drink.
Yeah.
Your law career is
Very
well
good.
beyond that. So yeah, you have a wonderful family, and I know you're really proud of your kids. So let's talk a little about what do you guys do as a family? What do you guys like doing? Do you guys travel? Talk to us about what life looks like outside of the courtroom and outside of the office.
Oh, well, my wife Catherine and I, we've been married for 33 years now, since 1991.
Very good. Check. That's correct.
I always, the years I don't always get right, but I remember our anniversary.
The date's locked in.
Yes,
the number of years
that I never forget. So I'm always in her good graces. And she is, she's like the most intelligent woman I know, as well as the most charming. And she's a psychologist. She teaches at San Diego State as a professor in psychology. She also works in a company that does counseling for people who are going through the workers' comp system.
Oh wow!
And
okay.
have
I don't think I knew that part.
Yeah, that's in the last 3 years. Is
okay.
Part of her what she does, and because what they do is somebody's in the workers' comp system because of an injury. Usually, it's a brain trauma injury from construction or correction workers who are injured, on the job, and they're going through workers' comp and therapy. So those are the things that she does. And then we have two children, our daughter Indira and our son Paxton. Our daughter just graduated from college in May, earlier this year.
Yeah, congratulations.
She's an artist. She's been to BNI.
Yeah.
In fact, I've re-invited her to the event we have later this month, and because she works part-time in my office, but she also has her own art business, and she's a comic designer, like comic book designer. But there are a lot of other different things that she does within that. And so her work and her group of clients is growing.
That's great.
So she's getting more and more commissions.
That's great.
And then our son Paxton is a sophomore in college.
Yeah.
He's doing really well.
So what do the Turners do when you're off the clock, man? What do you spend your time doing?
We're 4 sort of workaholics. Even the children work hard. Indira, she is always at home. She's working on art because she just loves doing it. And our son Paxton has a lot of ambitions, and so in terms of relaxing, if we watch a movie together, or just hang out, and when you have 2 children who are now adults, they sort of set the agenda for what you're going to do in your spare time. Vacations we love doing. We don't do enough. Hopefully in 2025 we'll get to do one together. I love traveling.
Wait, you just came back from Alaska, didn't you? Not too long ago.
Yeah.
You went on an Alaska trip. I heard you were telling us about that.
In September.
Yeah.
It's an amazing, amazing place. I was going to say a country. It's as big as some countries.
Yeah, it's huge.
And it was my first time ever visiting Alaska.
Yeah.
And it's so different than the lower 48. So beautiful. The outdoors, there's so much. There are mountains, coastline, the glaciers.
Yeah.
And everyone should visit. And that's why I encourage people to talk to David Greep. If they want an easy way to see Alaska, the cruise. But I did a land trip because I love hiking and tons of places to go hiking. Saw moose. I didn't see a bear, but I saw moose, several, and then lots of other interesting creatures.
Oh my gosh!
And my favorite part of Alaska, I saw Denali, the national park. I also saw what's called the Kenai Peninsula, which is down in the south along the Gulf of Alaska, which is now one of my favorite places in the world. It's so beautiful because it's rugged, mountainous peninsula with glaciers everywhere, and the coastline. You have mountains, high mountains, just plunge right down to the water.
Oh wow!
And I took a boat tour, did some hiking. It's like paradise.
That sounds it sounds exciting, but also like energizing. And like relaxing and energizing, like serene, peaceful, but like just beautiful, picturesque. I've wanted to go to Alaska for such a long time. Yeah. And my cousins had just went to Alaska on a cruise the same month that you went on your expedition. And I'm like, okay, well, there's 2 groups of people around me that have gone to Alaska. I think I have to make myself next somehow.
Yeah. And it's not super expensive, at least, shoulder season. Before it gets cold, like September, it was doable, and it's not far for us here on the West Coast.
Yeah,
it's like maybe 5 hours of flight.
Yeah,
and you're there, and there's so much to do.
Is it a do again for you guys?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. You're like not a one and done, huh?
But I think our next trip, the kids want to go to Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
So that's probably where we'll go next year, God willing.
Nice.
And they are in Hawaii. We all have different things we like and to do, and that's one of the great things about a place like Hawaii. But they want to go to Oahu because you're in the city. Yeah, you can go snorkeling, do this thing, but back, you can hang out at a cafe anytime you want. You can, all the city's advantages.
Yeah, some of the same like creature comforts, if you will, of home, if you will. Yeah.
So nowadays, with adult children, is working on when you're a parent of little kids, it's like, okay, so we're going to do this. We plan this.
Right.
Yes, we keep the things they like in mind, but we're doing all the planning. And now it's, okay, what do we have in common?
Yeah, the crossover.
Yeah, and where we have in common, we do something, and everyone comes together. Everyone has experience really wonderful memories.
That's so great. So I want to talk about your personal interest a little bit because I know a couple things about you that, we don't go into too much detail about because, our meeting is very structured and we kind of stick to our format. But you love NASCAR.
Oh, yeah.
What the heck is behind you loving NASCAR? Because I don't think people, judge you from afar and go, that's a guy that likes NASCAR. They're thinking of the dude in the cutoff sleeve T-shirt with the business in front, party in the back. Yeah. What's the deal, Jason? When did NASCAR into your life, and why do you love it so much?
Well, growing up on Sundays, if it wasn't football season, you turn on TV. Very often, there's a NASCAR race, Daytona starts in February and runs all through the summer. And, so I watch it and loved watching it on TV. And now I go to races a couple of times a year in person. And believe me, there is no adrenaline rush in sports for a spectator like a NASCAR race. If you're like, say, 10 yards away from the racetrack.
Oh, man.
And these cars are 30 cars, 35 cars racing past you.
Flying past you.
180, 190 miles an hour. The roar of the engines just shakes your bones.
Oh, wow.
And then you get to see all the strategy and what they're doing with their spotters and their crew chiefs and all of that, and it's a spectacle and an event. It's just so fun.
So
I love it.
It's interesting because I know that the stereotype is, man, that's really boring. Look at them going around the circle again, and then there's another circle but there's a lot more to that, right? You're mentioning the strategy. I mean, you look at car racing in general, rallycross has taken off. F1 is like flying right now. I mean, F1's like the thing, but NASCAR's even grown. I mean, it's been pretty, it's had a pretty, it's gone on a pretty good run these last couple of years. Like just automotive racing in general has gone on a pretty good tear.
Yeah. And you go to most NASCAR events, the grandstand is like 100,000. It seats 100,000.
God, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's it's a huge number of people. It's a lot of fun, and the NASCAR makes it more than many other sports. It's so accessible because you have a whole weekend of events leading up to the big race on Sunday.
Yeah, it's not just the flag going down and then
you get to see up close the cars. There's a day when you can go back to the garages. Sometimes you get to meet the drivers. And then there are other smaller races going on during the weekend. So, it's like this big party event for a whole weekend.
Wow.
And it's all over the country. And, yes, it started as a sport in the South, and it's still most strong there. They've got, NASCAR, like any company, is trying to market, and their big challenge is to get beyond people who look like me.
Yeah.
And especially move out of the South.
Sure.
But you go to a race in Las Vegas or Phoenix, you got people from all over California, Nevada, having fun, and it's so exciting.
So what do you have like a couple of standout memories or things that really are just burned into your experience going to NASCAR?
Well, I'll tell you too from my own personal experience. The first race I went to, was a year and a half ago, Southern California in Fontana. It was their last NASCAR race there because they've just torn down the old racetrack there. I think they're going to build a new one in a couple of years. But I went there, and so everything is new to me. And these cars. It's a cold day at the end of February. It was after one of our big storms. So the mountains above Fontana are covered in snow, so it's beautiful.
Wow.
And then you have these cars, they're racing 190 miles an hour. And I got a seat right near the front because you think, sporting event, you want to be in the front row. Not necessarily NASCAR.
Oh
and
my gosh.
It blew me away, in terms of just the roar of the noise.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you have to wear ear protection.
Yeah.
You see everyone wearing the ear muffs,
Yep.
ear muffs or whatever
you can wear these types of protective
noise
things.
canceling.
Mm-hmm. You can use noise canceling. Sometimes I use just little earplugs.
Cool.
That's usually not enough when you're that close.
But the way you're describing it's like real visceral. Like you're not doing the thing, but you're right there next to it.
Like
and it's like
every cell in your body is being vibrated.
What?
And it's
This is so
they're
crazy.
going around on a racetrack like that about every 35, 40 seconds. So every 40 seconds it's happening again and again. And that was one memory. The other was I went to the Las Vegas playoff race a few weeks ago, and there it was a really tight race, and you have everyone's trying to win, but especially those who are in the playoffs are really trying to win and qualify for the final. And there was a big crash, and like right at the beginning of stage 2, and right in the middle in front of pit road and the grass there, like one car, I think it was Tyler Riddick, he clipped somebody, and then he went spinning and rolling, and a couple of others crashed. And what's amazing is, okay, you have all this drama, and all these guys are able to walk away from these crashes. And that's one of the things
That's
I
so
like
incredible.
about NASCAR is you've got so much dangerous speed, but unlike, and this is why I like it better than Formula One, is the car, when I'm watching, I know that very unlikely somebody's going to die.
Right.
Or get seriously injured.
Right.
It's really rare. Whereas Formula One, in my view, and I'm not as good expert on Formula One, you got these little cars, they're close to the ground, the guys are half exposed.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
Yeah, open wheel. Yeah, it's open wheel, tight quarters. If you probably noticed recently they have like the halo system now that kind of canopies over the driver's head and got like that center mid. I don't know what that's called. There's probably a term for it. Okay, F1 haters, don't come at me in the comments. So they have like this halo system because if a tire flies off and it hits you, you're dead. Yeah. Like you go 220 miles an hour and a tire hits you, you're done. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a helmet, you're toast. It is so impressive to me that you can have a physical item going that fast, completely crash, and the person inside it walks out like they just stepped through a doorway of a new room. Yeah. Like, okay, well,
they may have
that thing's busted,
concussion
but
check, and sometimes they do have a concussion. But that's also pretty rare.
It's just crazy how the safety NASCAR is. Like how I don't want to say how safe it is because I don't think I can qualify it as safe, but like how safe they are despite the danger that they're putting themselves in.
Yeah, and then when you have a crash, you have a caution. So the cars have to slow down to like 50 miles an hour for a few laps while they clean things up, and then you have a restart. And the restarts are the most exciting parts.
It's like a scramble.
Well, you have everybody that got to bunch up.
Yep.
What order they were in at the time of the crash, they got to maintain that order. They can't pass anybody during caution. And then the flag comes out to start again. And some have caught up. So they were almost a lap down, but they were able to catch up. Some were 20 seconds behind the leader, but they were
now they're right there.
They're right there. And then suddenly they start at 190 miles an hour. And
Jeez.
That's actually one of the most exciting parts of a NASCAR race.
You like the strategy, I can tell.
Yeah, and the noise,
and the noise and the experience. So, do you drive fast too? By the way,
no,
I'm not. We're not going to name any speed limits. Actually, let's just do that. Let's take the last number off. What's the fastest you've ever driven, Jason? 17 miles an hour? 16? 15 miles? 11 miles an hour? Okay.
If you go on Interstate 80 out in Utah.
Yeah.
Bonneville.
Oh, you can go 11 miles an hour real fast out there. Yeah, real easily.
The trucks are even going close to that.
Yeah.
They're going like 9 to 10.
There's a part on the 125 I did 14 and a half miles an hour once. That was pretty fun.
Oh, okay. Well, you're better man. You're braver man than I.
No. Well, you have to be in the right vehicle. That's not just for any vehicles. No. Yeah, but you start getting up there, man. Life's coming at you pretty quick. 180, 190. That's insane.
Yeah, and they're trained. And of course, they have the assistance of the spotters who are telling them, okay, you've got your teammate who's almost behind you. He's going to help you do this move or that move. And it's a game. I'm going to say a game, but it's a game of like inches and milliseconds. Yeah. I mean, you and your competitors are separated by the thinnest of margins, like the whole time. Yeah, you can, a minute ago you're mentioning, there could be a 20-second gap between, the lead car and this other car, but then when you're lining up for the restart, they're like together again. Well, 20 seconds, that takes a long time to get to 20 seconds. You're not just down 20 seconds right away. That takes a long time to fall back that far in incremental bits. Mm-hmm. But isn't that a great analogy for life and business sometimes? And another analogy from NASCAR is every track is different. So you may do super well on this one track in Las Vegas. And then you go to Martinsville, which they just had a race in Martinsville, Virginia. Very different track. It's smaller, angles, and that's life too. As a business owner, okay, you have a system, you have your company, you have your team, and every new project or every new phase of your business is a new racetrack. And you gotta, and yes, you're still using the same skills, but you've got to adjust to the reality of a new racetrack.
And you have to apply them differently. And, oh, man. I didn't take enough time to think until I said that right now. And then you kind of round out that thought. I had not taken enough time to think about the analogy and the correlation between that between business and racing. But business is racing.
NASCAR
Racing is
life.
a business.
Racing is life.
NASCAR's life. NASCAR. There's your title, Jason.
Yeah.
Jason Turner show title. NASCAR is life.
Yes.
Well, that was easy. Now I don't have to think of it.
It'd be like there was that Talladega movie.
Talladega Nights.
Part two.
Talladega Nights. That
Starring
movie.
me.
Oh, if you're not first, you're last. Ricky Bobby.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love
Shake and
Talladega Nights. Shake and Bake. I'm gonna watch Talladega Nights tonight. That movie is so stupid. It's hilarious though. Yeah. I don't know if I'm immature or
I've
if I'm
seen it about
comedically
10
mature.
times.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm comedically mature or immature that I like that kind of humor. I'm not sure which end of that. I'm not sure what end of that is. I want to also though talk to you real quickly about your love for literature and writing. You mentioned a couple books already. One of the books you bought me that I'm so grateful you got me is Cyrus the Great, the book on management and leadership, like one of the greatest writings ever about management and leadership.
Probably the earliest.
And the earliest. And it's funny, someone just mentioned that the other day. I was watching some other show, and they're like, I read this book once called Cyrus the Great. I was like, oh, Jason got me that book. I love that book. You for as long as I've known you, and you and I've talked about books. We share a love for books, love for reading, love for learning. But you're also writing one. So tell me about where did your love for reading come from, and then what is your endeavor you're pursuing here with authoring?
Well, reading is from my family. My parents instilled that in me, and that's one of the things that actually drew my wife and me together when we were dating. Is we both loved reading, and we still do. And she reads more than I do, but we both still are voracious readers. And I go in different directions. I love history, like nonfiction, but I also novels, great classics. Something like Cyrus the Great. It reads a little like history, but it's not. It's really
it's instructional.
It's a management guide, management leadership guide, but written 2,500 years ago. And so I like lots of different types of literature. And writing is one of those things. Again, when I was a kid, I didn't dream, I'm going to be a writer. It's just, okay, I could do this. So, in school, I was good at writing, in English classes, elementary, high school, term papers, all that. And then, people would ask me, let's do a little skit for, school, a small play. And so I would help write it. And it was like, this is fun. And it just grew gradually. And I've written... I published a book earlier this year. It's a nonfiction book about how to walk with God. It's on Amazon, by the way, both Kindle and paper version. My daughter did the illustrations for it because we got some nice comic book illustrations in it. But it's looking at the life of Abraham and Sarah in the Bible and how those show us how the path God draws us to not only walk with God but to wait. To have patience, godly patience.
Wow.
So that was fun. It took me a while. All my writing is very slow. And now I'm working on part 2 of that series because that's the first of a trilogy of nonfiction books. And then I'm working on a fiction book about superheroes. And sort of a different take on superheroes.
That's so neat.
Not Guardians of the Galaxy or Black Panther or Superman. It's a different take.
That is so neat.
And hopefully, I was writing, and now I realize, okay, I've got almost enough material for 2 books, book 1 and book 2. Mm-hmm. So I'm working now on fleshing out book 1.
So where did the ideas come from? I mean, was this something you had a light bulb one day and you're like, I think I had this concept or this idea. I think I'll write a whole story. Or is this something that kind of made its way kind of into your space and your awareness, and then you were like, you know what, it's formulated, it's becoming this thing, I have to do something with it?
Well, and I'll my explanation will tell you a secret about me, something that no one knows about me. And
here we go.
I don't know BNI people knowing.
Turn up the volume in 3, 2, 1.
Yes. When it comes to ideas these days, or the ideas for a book or a story, usually it's, okay, I come up with it that pops into my mind, and if I can get rid of it, if I can just dismiss it, okay, it's not worth it. But if it stays in my mind and I keep thinking about it and I can't get rid of it, then I give it more attention. And then the ones that stay in my mind the most are the ones that turn into stories or books. And same with this superhero book. Now, the thing that people don't know about me is when I was in college and even in law school, I thought, I really loved writing, and I thought, I really want to make a go of being a professional writer. And but at the time, writing was really hard for me, like mentally very stressful. Some people write,
Really?
and it's catharsis. It feels good.
It flows.
Yeah, not for me. It was just mental agony.
Really?
And so at some point, I decided this isn't worth it. I'm not going to do this anymore. Now I still write professionally as a lawyer, and that's part of how God kept my writing skills improving. But as a creative writer, I was done with it. This was probably about 15 years ago, and gave it to God and said, God, I can't do anything because I can't do it anymore. But God brought it back to me, say in the last 4 or 5 years. And now as I write creatively, sometimes it's hard. You're trying to edit and redo things, but it's a lot of fun for the first time in my life. And so that's why I can go forward with projects and complete projects. And that's why I know that God wants me to be doing this, because, God gives us tasks to do or missions, and they're hard. And they're things we can't do on our own when God really gives us something to do, important. But ultimately, they should bring us joy, satisfaction, peace. And that's happening now. So now I know, okay, this is one thing that God wants me to do now in my life here in 2024.
Wow, that's awesome.
So
I'm really grateful that you shared that. That I think there's later in life I'm starting to realize there's things that may have been kind of like picking at us for a while, and we kind of just go, it's like a flag. Oh no, I don't want to do that. I don't have time for that. No, that doesn't seem important. But it seems to me that what I'm starting to notice more frequently is that it is the thing you're supposed to do. It's not something that's just kind of antagonizing you lightly and delicately as a nuisance. It's a prompt instead of a nuisance. And part of even doing this is the result of a prompt. And I had for such a long time wanted to do something like this, and I wasn't sure, and I could not escape the idea. Mm-hmm. I could not escape the idea of doing this. Like for a chapter, like this doesn't even make any sense. Like why would we make a show about our chapter? Like our chapter's our chapter, but it's the stories of the people in our chapter that are worth being told, the things that we can share and talk about that we don't commonly talk about in the setting that we see each other in, but it deepens and it broadens our knowing of each other relationally, our trust and our trustworthiness with each other. And also I like to think there's some entertainment value in it, because there's always something unexpected that comes up in a show. And I think that is the prompt to do those things is so worth considering and so worth paying attention to, and has great value that you may see some of while you're here and might carry on an even greater value when you're not. Mm-hmm. And
sometimes the most powerful thing is the still small voice that you hear deep in maybe it's not this audio thing in your ear, but deep down in here. It's a still small voice saying, do this, or, hey, keep your mind open to this possibility or that opportunity.
Wow. That's so it's like simple and also profound at the same time, which is like, I think why I love it. I need to honor and respect your time though, because I know we had a time limit. So we're going to have to kind of...
We could go on for 2 or 3 minutes. This is fun.
I know. We're going to have to do this again. And you know what's funny? The last several ones I've done, they've been a variety of times. Like we could go for hours. And I think that just is a credit to the quality of people in our group, and also the love and care and affection we have for each other, and our curiosity about each other beyond the people we just see in our meeting. So I would love to have you come back sometime. And I also have a vision for me to be on the other side of the camera at some point, and other members can come here and sit at this table and have conversations with 2, 3, 4 of you all having conversations, and then those can be things we can share too. So it won't always just be me in the driver's seat here. Driver's seat,
yeah,
NASCAR.
There we go.
It won't just always be me in the driver's seat.
If you're not first, you're last.
If you're not first, If you're not, maybe that should be your show title.
Yeah.
If you're not first, you're last.
Yeah. That and NASCAR is life.
Yes, NASCAR is life. If you're not first, you're last. There you have it with Jason Turner, everybody.
Well, thank you,
Jason,
Andy.
thank you so much for doing this. I hope this was enjoyable for you.
You make it just effortless. It's so easy. The way you've set it up, the way you organize it, and you know, we both have been in BNI for a while. We know how a one-to-one works.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're really great at this. You've made it just an excellent.
Thank you. This has been a lot of fun, and I'm so glad that we got to share some new things with people who are new to knowing you or have known you a long time like I do, and also learned a couple new things today. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing those things and sharing your time with us. If you are looking to network with Jason and myself down at BNI Partners in Excellence, we meet every Wednesday down at the Chula Vista Golf Course in Bonita. That's right, the Chula Vista Golf Course in Bonita, 4475 Bonita Road. Open networking starts at 6:45. Meeting starts at 7. We look forward to seeing you there. You can see the visitor registration link in the description box below if you want to come and visit us sometime. We're open every Wednesday except for federal holidays coming up. So we'll see you all at a meeting sometime, hopefully soon. Jason, thank you for being here on the show. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you again next week with another amazing guest.